Welcome back to another episode of Let 'Em Ride. We're going to be going over the two-game slate for the WNBA action on Friday, June 28th. We're going to break down and analyze each of those games, talk about which way I'm leaning as far as the points and the spread, and then any plays that I put in for these games I will have listed down below in the pinned comment later on. So don't forget to check back in, that way you don't miss out on any of those. And then to recap Thursday's action, we had the Lynx team total over 86.5. Now this one does cash for us, but that is where the good news ends, unfortunately. We had the Aces first quarter laying 3.5. This does not cash, and it's especially frustrating because I was leading the Aces first half, laying 6.5 all night, had it in the video, had it in my bet slip, had a change of heart, and took it out, replaced it with this first quarter, laying 3.5. The Aces come out flat. They lose the first quarter by 4, and then they win the second quarter by 11, so that they can cash that first half, laying the 6.5 for us. Unfortunately, we just didn't play it. We just leaned it. Played this first quarter instead. So that's a no-go. And then we had the Fever versus Storm over 167.5. It was looking good. And then they just come out in the fourth quarter, kind of slows down as this one was out of reach. And they land at 166. So we finished the night 1-2. Not the best night. We definitely want to improve on that one tonight. We are still up 8.99 units on the year. We are 19-11 overall. So not going to lose too much sleep over this one. But like I said, we're looking to bounce back. I don't like losing. I like winning. So let's get into some winning tonight. Our first game, we have the Atlanta Dream taking on the Connecticut Sun. The Sun are laying 8 in this one. We have an over-under sitting at 153.5. The Sun are back at home for this on a back-to-back. They're traveling from Washington after that come-from-behind overtime victory over the Mystics, while the Dream will be coming into this one with 4 days of rest in between action. The Dream have been the worst offense in the league this year, and they are still without their top scorer in Ryan Howard. Since she's gone down with that ankle injury, Atlanta has lost each game by an average of 15 points, and now they will be going up against what has been the best defense this season in the Sun. The Dream are 1-5 both straight up and to the number over their last 6, while the Sun finished their 3-game road trip just 1-2, and they failed to cover now in 4 straight. The legitimacy of them being viewed as a contender is starting to be questioned. Both these teams, they get to the line frequently. The Sun and the Dream rank first and second respectively in free throw attempt rate, but neither of them are hitting them at a decent mark. The Dream are just 7th in the W, hitting at 79%, while the Sun are dead last, hitting at only 74%. Connecticut hasn't played particularly great on offense as a whole this year. They rely on defense and then getting out on the break, scoring off turnovers, with the second most such points in the W at 19 per game. But the Dream have been rather efficient with the ball, despite their scoring woes, turning the ball over at the second lowest rate in the league, just under 13 per game. When these two teams met earlier in the month in Atlanta, the Sun dominated a 19-point rout, in which they held Atlanta to just 50 points on 28% shooting and 19% from deep. The Sun out-rebounded Atlanta 45-33. They dished out 12 more assists. Like I said, they won that one by 19, 69-50. So this has all the makings, though, of a letdown spot, if you ask me. Connecticut's coming home for their first game off a 3-game road trip, this being a back-to-back, and a large rest disadvantage. So I'm going to lean Atlanta, but I'm not looking to play the side here personally. Looking at the total, you have 2 of the slowest paced teams in the league in this one, with the Sun playing at the slowest and the Dream at the 3rd slowest. The Sun are 2nd in defensive rating. The Dream are 6th. So they're not shabby. They're middle of the pack, mediocre defensive team. And the Dream can't buy a basket lately. The Sun aren't the team to have a get-right game on the offensive side of things. So I'm leaning under. And I'm looking at the Sun team total under 80.5 actually too as well. Before their overtime game recently, the Sun had failed to hit 80 or more in 3 straight in 8 of their last 12. For our second and final game on the slate, we have the Los Angeles Sparks taking on the Phoenix Mercury. The Mercury are laying 10 in this one. We have an over-under sitting at 165.5. The Sparks are on the last game of a 7-game road trip that has seen them lose 6 straight so far by an average of 10 points per game. Now, they have covered in 4 of those 6 losses, however, but each of those covers were as 12-point or more dogs. They're 8-1 to the number on the year, but they are 6-1 to the number when they are double-digit dogs. So they get these larger spreads, and that's when they cover typically. They face a Mercury team coming off a loss in Minnesota their last game, but they're 4-2 straight up, and they're 5-1 against the spread since the returns of Rebecca Allen and Brittany Griner. They've beaten the Liberty, the Storm, and the Lynx in that time frame. And then their 2 losses are against top teams as well in the Aces and the Lynx. Over their last 6 games, Phoenix has been middle of the pack in terms of offensive and defensive rating. They're ranking 6th and 5th, respectively, and the Sparks have hovered towards the bottom of the W in those categories, ranking 11th in offensive and 10th in defensive rating. And then also in their last 6, the Mercury are just in the green as far as net rating, only a .2 rating. However, they still own a 14.1 edge over the Sparks, who sit at a negative 13.9. The Mercury are leading the league in points off turnovers, which is also not a good look for LA, as they lead the W in turnovers, and then also in opponents' points scored off turnovers as well. The Sparks are allowing opponents the highest shooting percentage from the field, and then the second highest percentage from deep over the course of the year as well. And then since the return of Griner and Allen, the Mercury are shooting 66% from the paint and 58% from mid-range. Both of those are first in the W. So with all these things considered, I want to lean Phoenix here in a bounce-back spot. They're at home. They have plenty of rest. But the Sparks have been cash machines when it comes to these double-digit spreads. So I'll probably just stay off the side here. But I'm tempted to look at Phoenix. I'm tempted to look at them early, probably. Look at them in the first half, the first quarter. So be sure to check back into the pin comment later on to see if I put anything in there in that regard. And then as far as the total, neither of these teams is playing exceptionally strong defense. The Mercury are playing at the second fastest pace in the league. So I'd like them to control the tempo here at home and potentially get us up over that total. All right, that's just about going to wrap us up here for another episode of Let 'Em Ride. Before we get out of here, let's recap what we went over in the video today and which way we are leaning. I'm looking at the Sun, team total under 80.5. Looking at the Dream versus the Sun, full game, total under 153.5. And then the Mercury first half laying the 6.5 points. Now, all 3 of these picks for me currently are just leans. I have not placed bets on any of these yet. So be sure to check down into that pin comment later so you can see if I did ride along with these picks or if I found anything else additional before tip-off that I decided to play. And you can see if you'd like to ride along with them as well. Or maybe you look at those picks and you're like, those picks are complete duds. I want to do the contrary. But whatever you decide to do, make sure you throw them down into the comments down below so I can see what you guys have cooked up as well. And if you liked the video, if you found it helpful or useful in any kind of way, please don't forget to smash that like button for me. And hit subscribe if you have not already. That way you don't miss out on any of the content that we're dropping. Hit share if you can. It is definitely appreciated. So that's going to do it here for us on another episode of Let 'Em Ride. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you on the next one.